All right, so Dave Rubin has been too busy riding the coattails of Jordan Peterson to actively be posting on his YouTube because he is over in other countries riding the coattails of Jordan Peterson. And so he does these AMAs where I think he takes super chats and answers questions just like any other sort of YouTuber does, right? And what you guys are going to be seeing, and this title is one that is completely accurate. I couldn't believe as I was watching this, the title became more and more clear to me that this guy is a moron, a massive moron at that. And it is unbelievable how dumb this guy is. And here's what I have to say: this guy has to know. He has to know. I repeat, he must know he's a fraud when he goes to sleep. Like when he lays down on his bed and he thinks about what he did during the day and he thinks about what he's doing, he has to know he's a fraud. Because the stuff that this guy is saying, and when you're watching him, right, like you're gonna see here, the stuff that he says is so unbelievably dumb, it's ridiculous. But B, you do kind of get the feeling that he doesn't believe what he's saying, and he's just saying what he's saying just for obvious reasons, right? And you can totally tell, man, because this guy can't state a coherent statement at all, and it's so embarrassing to watch. And so I already, oh my goodness, this is painful to watch. But Dave Rubin is an absolute massive moron. And basically, he's going to go on in this AMA he does. He's going to start out with a little preface, basically an intro, where he's going to talk about the midterm elections. Remember Tommy Lahren talked about the midterms and she was a moron about it? Yeah, Dave Rubin's going to basically do the same thing, except he's going to talk about, what he was hoping the left will be because, I want to be them rational, want them to be rational. And it's going to be really, really cringy. And I'm going to go over this insane stuff that he says here. The very dumb stuff that he says here, by the way. Maybe he's too busy to know basic stuff because he's too busy, riding the coattails of Jordan Peterson. I don't know. But all I know is Dave Rubin is definitely someone who, when he goes to sleep at night, he can't live with himself. He can't. There's no way he can, dude. How could someone be such a fraud and be okay with it? It's just impossible. But anyways, check this out. Let's come talk about it.
Anyway, what I said before the election was that what I think the best thing is for the things that I care about and for a return to liberalism, a left that was liberal, that had a live and let live attitude, but believed there was the right way to use the government uh, to create a grand society, let's say. That has nothing to do with the left anymore. So my feeling was these guys have to be destroyed. I don't want to hurt people. I want the ideas to be rejected so that better ideas could come. So as I laid it out the other day, what I would say is if this leftist monster had been destroyed out of the ashes of that, and this is a little bit of sort of like a Jordan Peterson style religious resurrection, out of the ashes of that, perhaps a phoenix could come forth. Perhaps there would be a rebirth of liberalism. Now, unfortunately, that's not what happened. Now, look, it's interesting what happened here because there was definitely not a blue wave. So let's be clear on that. Everybody was predicting the blue wave, the blue wave, the blue wave. And as I said the other day, it's like anyone that's predicting anything with certainty, nobody had any clue what was going on. And we can all play armchair quarterback and we can all pretend the day after we knew exactly what was going on, but that's pretty rare and far between. And especially these days, it's hard to garner what's going on with the polls. My hope, you take out the dangerous elements of the Democratic Party, they return to liberalism, and then their return to a bit of a centrism would then cause some of the right, the bad elements of the right, I don't think are systemic or massive or that influential, but they do exist. But then maybe if the left came a little closer to the center, it would be a little bit easier for the right to rid itself of some of its bad elements. And what I also thought was that maybe if that had happened, Trump then would be feeling really good, like he could do what he wanted for the next 2 years, and that maybe he then would realize you don't have to run on trolling on Twitter all the time and fighting the media all the time and all of those things, because I do think we're going to eventually get to diminishing returns on that, because I don't think a society can run on that forever. I just don't think it's possible. And that maybe then Trump would actually moderate some of the language. And I think most people, although it's hard to get, say, the hashtag resistance people to admit this, but I think most people realize the policies of Trump, even if you're a lefty, haven't been that bad. The rhetoric and what you may think of him as a person and all that, that's a different story. So that was my hope. Now, what happened? Okay, so the Democrats got the House back. Last I heard, I think it's around they got at least 26 seats back, but they're still waiting to find out more. Republicans picked up a couple in the Senate. So look, number one, the real risk of this whole thing would have been that there had been a blue wave to the point where the Republican or the Democrats would have taken the House and taken the Senate, and then we would have had impeachment of Trump. There is just no doubt. And what that would have led to, I really believe this, and I didn't want to say this over the last couple of weeks because I don't like teasing out ideas so that they gain momentum, scary ideas, let's say, is that we would have ended up in sort of a low grade if that would have happened. Now, fortunately, because the Republicans at least kept the Senate, and I say this as someone that has never even really voted Republican, which I think is worth mentioning over and over because it seems like I'm defending the Republicans or that I am a Republican and I'm not. Though I generally think their ideas are better at the moment. But had they lost both the House and the Senate.
Can someone be more wrong in the span of like 3 or 4 minutes and say so? Can someone in a span of 3 or 4 minutes be that incoherent and make such horrible points that don't make sense? Is that possible to do that? Like, did he just make a record? Did he just break a record? Like, how do you say such insanely dumb stuff in such a short span of time? So many things. So here's the biggest problem with this, right? This idea of wanting the left to be something superior, which he believes is the ideal system or the ideal, ideology for the left and liberalism, is premised upon this idea that he wants to be a liberal, or that he believes he was a liberal and the liberals left him rather than him leaving the left, which is totally false. Don't fall for that BS. He's just saying that to pander to his fans because, again, like I explain all the time, Dave Rubin has many cards to play. One of his main cards is being previously a liberal. And so he constantly has to pander to his audience by saying, the left, man, I wish they would believe in this because, man, these were the golden days. These were the golden days, and the left needs to return. And there's the idea that's premised that, the left left him, A, and B, that he actually wants the left to be good, which is obviously just simply not true. He's the opposite. He's totally not liberal, even in the slightest. And he always misrepresents the liberal left for what it's been, right? Modern American liberalism is predicated on the idea of economical governmental intervention in the economy to certain degrees, whether it be the Affordable Care Act is what you believe in, or single-payer health care. Recall that in the 90s, Hillary Clinton was huge upon rallying for universal health care. Remember, during the Bush administration, civil liberties. So the main two things that I think define it are economic intervention through the government to make things better for human life, whether it be, improving our healthcare system through government action or just, different things like social programs. But also, at the time, it was definitely defined by attempting to protect civil liberties, whether it be the shredding of the Fourth Amendment or, different things like that George Bush was doing. And so the idea that the left was ever not that, I don't know what he thinks the left was, what liberalism was. I genuinely don't know because he doesn't know. Like, the guy can't make a coherent statement. He just said, he just slams a bunch of words together. He just mashes up a bunch of words together and then boom, like that's your thing. Like, it doesn't make sense. And the craziest thing it's not true. It's not the craziest thing. But this is another point going towards him being a moron. You guys just saw him literally say that, you can try to pretend to be an armchair all you want, but we didn't really know what was going to happen because, you can never trust polling data. Dude, first of all, the 2016 presidential polling data, this is the biggest misunderstanding ever. Nationally, on the day of the election, they were basically tied. So it was in the margin of error, and Hillary Clinton came out on top of the popular vote. So the polling data was right, okay? This election cycle, right? Was the polling data wrong? No, the polling data was perfectly on point. We knew the House was going to win. All of the polling data proved that the House was going to win. It said the House was going to go Democrat, right? So the House went Democrat. That's what happened because the polling data showed that the House was going to go Democrat. You just look it up. It's very simple. And The polling data also showed, and this requires basic elementary mathematic understanding of numbers, that the Senate was going to remain Republican because how many vacancies were there for Democrats? 26. How many vacancies were there for Republicans? 9. That means that there are more Democratic seats up for re-election, meaning that they're going to lose more. There's no way they were going to defend 26 and I believe pick up 2, right? No way they were going to do that. That's an insane thought. And so this guy is so dumb that he makes a statement that's empirically not true from the last 2 election cycles that we have. So he can't, like, throughout this whole span, he hasn't made a single correct point in any way, shape, or form. He's had a faulty premise. He's presented a faulty premise that he wants the liberalism to be good and that liberalism left him. He misdescribes liberalism. He doesn't describe liberalism correctly. He just makes up his own definition for no reason. He doesn't accurately describe it anyway. And then he literally, this is basic stuff. The polling data, dude, it's empirical evidence. We knew the polling data showed us how the House was going to go Democrat and how the Republicans were going to take the Senate. We're going to keep the Senate. And then he goes, this moron thinks the left needs to be more centrist. What are you talking about, dude? The left has never been more centrist. Do you have any idea what the left is like now? Are you kidding me? Hillary, this is the funniest thing too. He wants a more centrist person to run than Hillary. First of all, I don't know how do you get more centrist than Hillary Clinton? She barely took a position on anything. That's literally what she did. She was like, oh yeah, let's barely make some moves on the ACA, right? It's like, all right, dude. Again, you just said something totally empirically, factually wrong. Because the data shows that the person should have been more left, A, but B, he's also making the claim that the left was not already center when Hillary Clinton ran, which is, it's empirically false. Hillary Clinton was barely left of center, barely left of center. She had some, liberal policies basically, but she wasn't Bernie Sanders, as Dave Rubin should know because he supported Bernie Sanders. So this guy, again, I want to repeat this. I want you to know this. When this guy goes to sleep and he lies down and he, lies down, puts his head on his pillow, he knows he's a fraud. He knows it. He knows it because he's not saying anything coherent here. And the biggest thing to notice here is this is him off the cuff. This is Dave Rubin off the cuff. So there's a reason why he scripts his things. It's because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So he has to manufacture and set up what he's saying so he didn't say something so dumb. Then he makes another dumb point saying, even if you're a resistance one, Trump's policy hasn't been that bad. Dude, what president have you been watching? What president are you talking about here? Who are you talking about, dude? We're talking about the guy passed tax cuts in which 83% of it went to the top 1%. You're talking about repealing the individual mandate, which is the foundation of the Affordable Care Act, which you supposedly supported in the past, and they almost repealed the ACA. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, which is something that you, as a supposed rational centrist guy, we're not centrist, obviously, you're far right, but you're trying to make the claim that these policies aren't bad. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. He destroyed the Iran deal. That was massive. He's just taken a sledgehammer to all diplomacy. He's potentially ruining decades upon decades of diplomacy. Maybe even centuries, dude. You don't know. Because the Israel-Palestine issue, he totally neutered all relations there, by the way. Because he sent his son-in-law to go do it, which is like nepotism, peak nepotism, dude. You should be calling that out. This is the guy who said he was going to be the first to put his feet to the fire. This guy is a joke. Does he even know what Donald Trump has done as president? Does he even know? I mean, he does so much garbage, it's hard to even keep up. Honestly, it really is. This dude's a horrible human being, and this guy says, oh, even if you're a resistance guy, he didn't do that bad. What president do you know? And then he goes, yeah, right now I think the Republicans' ideas are better than liberals. That's not an impersonation, by the way. Don't say that. Oh my God, dude. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do because throughout this past 3 or 4 minute clip, I don't know how long it was, he hasn't made a single coherent point that was accurate. Not even one. Not a single one. Even on empirical data, right? The midterms just happened, and he misstated the polls. He literally said, "Oh, we don't know about the polls, so we can try to be armchair." No, you moron. The polls were on point. We know it's empirical data. It's not being armchair quarterback or whatever, dude. You're in You are in over your head. You're stupid. And I want to end this off by again repeating. Thanks. Oh yeah, by the way, to mention, you did block me on Instagram. Dave Rubin did block me on Instagram. So much for the free exchange of ideas. Big win in the battle of ideas. But I want to finish this off by saying, Dave Rubin, he knows he's a fraud, dude. He knows when he goes to sleep at night, he knows he's a fraud that is sold out. He doesn't believe what he's saying because he can't make a single coherent point by any objective measure. Not a single coherent point is made by this man. And it is really horrible to watch.